Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of this podcast, The Mind Matters. And this is your host, Saurabh. Now you must be thinking, what is this podcast about? Well, this podcast is a platform to talk about general mental well being. To be more specific, this is a podcast where I'm going to talk more about the mental health problems that we face in our lives, being anxiety that we go through every day to big problems like depression or OCD that we might have gone through or are going through. Now, why did I start or decide to start this podcast? Well, growing up, I have had my own share of mental health problems that I have gone through, be it obsessive compulsive disorder growing up as a kid, where I used to think that my mom or my family would be in danger if I don't do a certain sequence of actions, to going through anxiety in my daily life whenever something goes out of control, and also going through two zones of depression during my life. Now that I look back into that times, I realize that I did not actually know that I'm going through it because probably there was not a lot of awareness about this. And that is why I have taken this podcast up to make sure that I put out my experience and the experience of others who have gone through something similar so that I can help to create this mental awareness amongst everyone, since mental health is not at that scale. Even though we do talk about it, we there is a lot that we can do to create more awareness. So this podcast is just a small step that I have taken to make sure that I do my part in creating mental health awareness and trying to help as many people out there as possible and create a create an impact in their lives. So let's talk about what this podcast is going to be about and the details of this podcast. This first episode, in the pilot episode, I am going to talk and walk you through my life, my journey, the mental health problems that I have faced right from when I was probably 10 years old up until what I have faced at the age of 25 in my life, how I have coped with those problems in a positive or a negative manner. And after this episode, it's going to be the episodes after these are going to be more about bringing in guests and having conversations with them to make sure that we talk about the problems that they have gone through, the way that they have coped up with these problems. So let's begin with the first episode, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's begin with the question, who am I? My name is Saurabh Korgaonkar, and I was born and raised in the city that never sleeps, the city of Mumbai. I grew up 23 years and lived in the city of Mumbai, where my heart is always going to be. And I pursued my bachelor's in computer engineering from Mumbai University. I worked for a bit as a software developer in Mumbai itself, and then realized that software engineering is not necessarily for me. I also wanted to be at the intersection of technology and business. So I decided to pivot my career from software engineering into um, technological product management. So, and that is where I decided to pursue my masters here in the United States, where I did that from Carnegie Mellon University, and I am currently working as a product manager at a edtech firm in the city of Boston. Now, let me tell you more about what this episode is about, the mental health problems, my mental health journey, which I have faced through in these 25 years of my life. Growing up, Since I was in a small family, uh, with I grew up with my dad, my mom, and my younger brother who is now in 12th grade. So, being the first child in the family, I was I always grew up in a very protected environment, so to say, and there is also this pressure of performing. So I think these two factors have molded a lot of why and how I have faced this mental health issues, or how it has nurtured me as a person and my personality. Now, talking about my school time, um, I was very active in sports. I also have played karate, sort of, so to say, an all rounder, always in the top 10 students who scored marks and all that stuff. But deep down, there were some issues that I used to face. For example, um, during the first sort of a month of whenever the school used to start, I used to somehow go through OCD, which is, for people who don't know, obsessive compulsive disorder, where a person might feel that something bad would happen to themselves or their loved ones or people around them if they don't perform a sequence of steps in a particular way. So this is where I had my first sort of incidents when it comes to mental health in my life, where in the beginning of the school time, when it was like sort of a month or so, I used to always hate going to school and sort of used to go in the washrooms and cry and think of like just going back and going home, wondering if something might go wrong with my mom who is at home or my dad who is at work. And this issue sort of grew deeper, where there was a period I particularly remember where the OCD was at its peak. Now, by peak, I mean that the way that it affected me is where I used to think that if I touch something with my left hand, for example, a bench or a door, I should also touch it with my right hand. If I don't touch it or tap it with my left or the right hand together, or like if it's like it has to be balanced for some sort, and then there was this number 3 where if I tap something thrice, I should also the right uh, tap that particular thing thrice with my right hand. What if I don't do it, is what used to go through my brain, and that is where I used to feel that probably my mom would die or my father would go through an accident. And this was a very, if I'm not wrong, this happened with me for almost 2 years, probably my 5th grade and the 6th grade. And at that point in time, I don't know, I never was able to talk about this with either my parents or anyone at school, or even probably the counselor. I don't remember if there was a counselor at that point in time, but I was not able to do that. So all these things were in my head, always constantly going through it. At the exterior, I would ace at like sports, at studies, but somewhere down there was this weak person who would face these issues and be quiet and not talk about it. So thankfully, this did not last for very long time. Uh, this issue gradually faded away. So I think it was like after just 2 years, uh, in my fifth and my sixth, or probably in seventh, was where I faced the obsessive compulsive disorder in my life. And gradually, I don't know, it sort of faded away. And then uh, probably it was the strength that I grew internally of thinking no. And it just went away. So this is what I faced in my school life, a mental health problem that I have faced, which which is not just something that people face in their school growing up as a child, but adult OCD is also a big thing. Thankfully, I have grown through it and have not faced that ever since. But if anyone is going through that, make sure that you talk to someone and uh, grow through it. Be strong enough to not let that affect you. So, moving on to the time when I was in my 11th and 12th grade. So, to tell you more, I need to give you some context about how my 10th grade was. I did score well in my 10th grade, where I secured like I think 93.4%, and everyone in the family was happy. My parents were happy, I was happy. And then, as the Indian families and saying goes, your child is either going to be a doctor or an engineer. So there I was. I took up science, but I knew for a fact back then that I did not want it to become a doctor. So I went the other route and took up science and physics, chemistry, maths for my 11th and 12th grade. Now, there was this pressure of getting into the top engineering colleges in India, which are IIT, NITs, triple ITs. And at the beginning, I was very excited and enthusiastic about studying and going into those schools. Somehow, life had other plans where I did not score that well. Probably I also got uh, I was not that much into studying as getting it as it comes to like students who study for getting into IITs or NITs. And there was always this pressure of doing the best, or a peer pressure, a societal pressure of going into IIT, even though like after scoring such good marks in the 10th grade. Now everything was well until the 12th grade boards started, where it was physics which was the first paper. And I still realize and remember the day that I was sitting in the exam hall, and I look at the question paper and everyone is looking at each other, because I think it was one of the toughest papers that were said by the examiners. And that is where I contemplated 2 entire years of my 11th and 12th grade, thinking, what have I done with my life? Am I really worth it? What is going to happen with my life next? And those 3 hours, I wasn't able to concentrate in my like writing the exam or studies. It was just me going through so many things in my head. After that day, everything went downwards for the next 6 months, because I just I had this pressure of, oh, what if I fail? Oh, what is going to happen with my life after that? Is this the end? And I still remember the maths paper did not go as well, chemistry paper did not go as well. And then comes in the big, celebrated, probably famous as well as infamous exam, which is the IIT JEE. During our year, there was only the IIT JEE which was considered for getting into engineering colleges. And oh my god, I was disastrous. My mental health was disastrous, so to say, where I felt like this is the end of the world. I'm not going to achieve anything in my life. Everything has been wasted. So at home, I did speak about this with my mom and dad, and my dad, um, I think, understood me more. And it was, I think, at that point where I actually also went to see a therapist and like talk about the pressure that I'm feeling, where I'm not able to concentrate even for like 15 minutes without thinking what is going to go wrong. It was, the voices in my head were so bad. Now they gave me some relaxant medicine, but it did not work. I not gonna lie, it never worked for me. On the day of JEE, same thing happened with me. I was not able to concentrate, everything went downhill. And sometime later, the results were out, and I had scored only 34 marks out of 360 marks. The cutoff was at 104. I still remember everything very clearly because it's still vivid in my memory, those days and the phase that I've gone through. Now, just to tell you, 34 out of 360 is a very bad score. Everything, this is the moment where I slipped into depression. I slipped into depression where I felt like this is it, like my life is over. And I started getting suicidal thoughts. There were days, like nights, where I am sleeping but I'm not actually sleeping. And I'm not going to lie, I have had thoughts of like sort of maybe I should die instead of like not doing anything and like not living up to the expectations of my family, living up to the expectations of the society, living up to the expectations of myself. And now that I think about it, the 25-year-old me would say to the 16-year-old me back then that everything turned out pretty well. I did not have to be so hard on myself, go through all that phase in my life where for the next probably 4 or 5 months, I did not just, it was not just about studies, but I lost confidence in general, where I did not feel I could do anything at all good because since like academics had been such an integral part of my life revolved around it, like doing something academically really well. A downfall in that phase of, in that aspect of my life made me feel that I'm good for nothing. There was also a phase where I was just like, I had given up hopes on everything. It was just me thinking of deciding to not take up engineering altogether and just go and do bachelor's in science degree. But I have been grateful to the people in my life who have been there to like sort of make sure that, oh Saurabh, no, you can do it, you have to do it. And my family has been there, thankfully, all that time in my life. So somehow I took up engineering, and those years of engineering were sort of the years where I made my best memories. I um, scored very well. I participated in hackathons. This was the phase where I gained confidence in my life from the phase that I had gone through after my 12th, where I felt I was good for nothing and pulled myself out of it and went through it. Now, this was also a very peak phase of my life where I was doing academically pretty well. I was also uh, sort of the general secretary of the committee in my university. I was also in a very stable relationship. So things were going very well in that phase. I was at the high. Let's talk about what happened next in the next phase after graduation. Uh, Now, there were some issues that came up in my relationship, and probably communication, I would say, is something that uh, was not that well between my partner and I at that point in time. So, fast forward to April 2020. This was 29th April, where we spoke about the issue that was going on in our relationship. And this was also the time where COVID had started to hit, and everything in India was going, and we were actually in a lockdown where you couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. And after 29th of April, within 2 days, we broke up. Now, it was not actually the broke up which sorry, not actually the breakup which hit me, but it was the circumstances of that breakup, and what happened in that breakup, like why that breakup happened, which made me go in an altogether dark phase of my life. Another 6 months of depression, 6 to 8 months of depression. So, this was the COVID phase where India was in a strict lockdown. I was going through the breakup, accepting the circumstances, and understanding myself. This was the time in my life where all that baggage of um, not processing my emotions, every baggage that was mental baggage that was inside of me, the emotional baggage came at the surface altogether, and it just hit me like a big tsunami wave, and my life was shattered. This was also the phase where I was the most unhealthiest. Um, I used to drink to sort of numb my emotions, is what I have realized now about that time. And this has caused, and I have caused, that behavior of mine did cause trouble to other people out there, my friends, my girlfriend back then, and it was not that great. So when this hit, I went again into like a zone of depression where I used to wake up not wanting to wake up. I used to be in bed for like 12 hours straight, not feeling like waking up, um, into that zone of I don't want to do anything, I don't want to live this life. Again, those suicidal thoughts hitting me, where I used to look into the mirror and feel like, why am I even living my life? Why am I even uh, living to see another day? And it was at that point in time where I had a very few people in my life who stood by me, listened to me, spoke with me, and shout out to two of my school friends who used to hear to me and my stories, my crying, my cribbing, my complaining, my talks every single day. Not going to lie, this used to happen every single day. So I am very grateful that I have them in my life, and both are still a very integral part of my life. And we are called the musketeers, so to say. And this these two have been through that thin phase of my life where I did not have a reason to sort of um, like why I wanna live to see the next day. The other person who helped me so much during that time was the founder of my company that I was working for. He was very generous. He knew that I was going through a phase where I was not able to control my emotions. I was in a depth, like it was a trough that I was facing in my life. And he took and was very patient with me to talk about, like, this is what you can do, this is how you can do it. And he did not let that affect any of my work and anything. So I am very grateful for him as well. We are still in contact. He has helped me a lot and has been a mentor since then. So having these people, I've realized, in your life who help you bring a smile on your face, who understand who you can pour your heart out and be just unfiltered, is very necessary. So if you are someone who is going through a bad phase of mental health in your life, I would definitely request you to go out there and not just let that grow inside and kill you one day at a time. Please go out and talk to someone. It will definitely help you. There would be someone who cares enough to listen to everything that you have to say. And I would love to do that as well. So if you want to talk, I am open to talking, understanding about you, and knowing your story. So, okay, now coming back to my story, I was at the most unhealthiest phase of my life. There are two things during that phase which I made change in my life, two things that I changed in my life which helped me. One was I started exercising every day. I started running. Running became an integral part of my daily routine. First day was hard. I couldn't even run like probably 2 kilometers, but slowly, steadily, I started running 5 kilometers every day. It became a morning routine for me, it became like meditation for me. And the second is I took up some art of living courses by Shri Ravi Shankar, and I made sure that I followed through. I went deeper into it. I practiced yoga. This is where I felt like meditating every day helped me sort of process my emotions in a better way. I know it was still very difficult because things don't change in one night. A habit takes 21 days to develop, and it takes 90 days to make it a lifestyle of you, in you, probably. So um, this is where things started somehow uh, changing in my life. And this was, I think, about in October or November, where my life started like going better, uh, and I was starting to see the brighter side of life. Let everything go in the past, forgive um, myself, forgive the other person, forgive everyone who I had, like, sort of arguments, big fights, everything which was constructed and restricted, sort of the great gates were flooded, and every emotion in me was like aggravated by that phase of COVID where me being an extrovert, not able to go out, meet people, talk to my friends, meet my friends, and just being at home, ruminating over what mistakes I have done, why have I done, and it was very bad. And my mom has been a constant supporter in my life throughout, so I just love her. She has been with me no matter what, to listen to me during that phase. Uh, my dad was also very patient. I never like talked about that with him, but I knew he knew that somewhere something is wrong in my life, and he was patient enough to uh, not like get angry if I'm making a mistake, if I'm doing something wrong. And my brother is more like has been a pillar with me to like been there for me really. So like I'm very grateful to have my family who has been always supportive of whatever I have done, the decisions I've taken, and the way that I've taken them. Now, during that phase, I also thought of taking up therapy to make myself, because I'm always um, I'm a believer of therapy. Like it's, and this was like a water, like drowning underwater situation that I was going through. I went to the therapist, and 2 weeks things were going well, and I was very against not taking up medicines or like any of those medicines that were for depression or anything. But somehow I think in the third or the fourth week, the fourth session probably of my therapy, the doctor suggested me to take up those medicines, and that is where I lost my hope of going to the therapy sessions again, because I had clearly said that I don't want to go through it, but the doctor did not, or like the therapist did not see any change in my life or my behavior and said that I should take it. Now, that is where I stopped taking up therapy. I lost all hope in therapy and felt like this is not for me. But the people around me and with my own strength, I grew, and like got out of that, came here to do my master's in the United States. And now let's talk about this chapter in the United States and what I went through in that phase of my life. So now let's talk about the phase of my life where I left my entire life, my family, and came here in the United States to pursue my master's degree at Carnegie Mellon University. So, before coming here, all I had heard of from the people that I had spoken to who were already in the United States is that it gets hectic, you go through a lot of emotions, you have to handle a lot of stress. But it is not until I landed myself and started my own journey in the United States that I actually faced those problems and understood the depth of it, because each and every one of us is different, has had a different has a different personality, different experiences in life. So for me, honestly speaking, the first 6 months were very bad, in a sense where I had like gone through panic attacks during some of my classes where uh, I, I I was not just I just felt like going back. This is not for me. I can't do this. Now, the reason why I realized this happened was because being the first child and always grown up in a productive environment, I was very dependent on my mom or my dad or like anyone around me to take those bigger decisions, like life decisions for myself. So always being in that shell when I was just left out there and I had to stand on my own, I found it very difficult for myself to take those decisions. And that is where I realized that I'm not confident enough in myself to uh, take some sort of decision, be it like cooking something good or taking courses for my semester, choosing those courses, or as a matter of fact, doing the budgeting for like in my life, like financial budgeting. This was very tough because I did not know what to do. 23 years of my life, I was in that productive environment, and suddenly now I am 16 hours away from my family, can't meet them. And this was also, this was like sort of a time where I slowly and gradually looked at the surroundings, like my flatmates, how are they making those decisions. And thankfully they were supportive and have always helped me no matter what the situation was. During this time I did take up therapy from the university services that were available, and I don't know, for some reason, I was not able to connect with the therapist. Now, the therapist that I was speaking to was an American citizen, like an American. And I sort of feel that the cultural differences that we have in the cultures between India and United States, like in the American culture, is why I was not able to properly connect with them and talk through all those issues that I was going through. Now, fast forward to like 6 months. So, this was also a time where, after like during my second semester of masters, I was in a long distance relationship with a person which I had dated in the past, but it did not go well. This was during like my high school, and there was some sort of like something that did not go well, and we parted ways. Now this was another hit in the gut which I had felt, apart from me trying to get my life together, make a new life in this country, and then also having to like lose that person who I was very close to and like used to talk to. This is where I sort of like started using alcohol as my go-to, where I used to like drink to like numb my emotions and during that phase of my life. So a friend of mine who was studying with me like recommended me to a therapist who she had gone through therapy with. And I think that has been a game changer, a life changer for me. The person that I spoke to, he sort of he is he must be in his late 20s itself. And it was the second session of therapy where I was trying to say something about myself, or like but I was not able to articulate it that well, and he properly caught what I wanted to speak. And he that is the moment where I realized that, oh, this is the person that I have been waiting for as my therapist for so long. And not going to lie, those 1.5 years of therapy I have taken with him, I have changed myself, and I can see those changes. Even the people who saw me back then, like maybe probably 2 years ago, and saw me like recently, told me that I have changed as a person. And what essentially happened in those therapy sessions was my emotions, I started to face them, started to process them properly. And this also somehow made me realize that I don't need alcohol anymore, or I don't need those some times of like uh, smoking during parties in my life anymore to sort of process those emotions. I started coping with them in a very good manner. I There was a lot of childhood baggage that I was carrying with me, some traumas which were stuck with me uh, up until now, that I was able to properly process. And uh, a lot of it also comes through like the practice of forgiveness, forgiving your own self, your childhood, your parents, your family, your friends, other people in your life who you have like held on to, um, is what helped me in all those therapy sessions. Now, personally, I am a person who has become so independent in life that I can take those from a minute change in my life to a big change. For example, this right here that I'm doing, I'm talking about my mental health, opening up and making sure that I am creating a platform where these these talks are going on, so that someone out there who is facing, who is having a problem, is being helped, is hearing what I have gone through as well, is feeling relatable to those issues that I have faced. And also the people I'm going to talk to in the further episodes, this is what uh, this is what I have become now, like a person who can take those decisions on myself. Not going to lie, I am still in, like, there are times where being away from family, I might feel lonely, or I might have those emotional ups and downs. But meditation is a daily part of my life and routine. Working out actively has been a routine. Eating healthy has been a routine. Therapy has been a routine. And these habits have helped me stay at the top of my mental well being, at the best, from a 16-year-old Saurabh who had thought of giving up on his dreams, giving up on his life, thinking that I'm not good for anything. Why am I even living to see another day? To the 25-year-old me, who is as fresh as ever, as energetic as ever, with the fire in myself of like making an impact out there in the world, pursuing my dreams, being confident that yes, I can achieve them, and being so healthily facing my emotions and taking control over these. I think therapy is something which is not just a SOS call where you are in depression, oh, I need therapy, but something that people can take up as a part of their everyday life, even when there is not a big life event that has happened, because it's more about understanding yourself better. It is more about realizing who you are as a person. Even though we might feel that we are mentally very stable, everything is going on good, there is a lot of baggage that we carry right from our childhood through the big or small incidents that happen in our life, which sort of have a scar or create a mark on ourselves. And they can be seen in situations where we might take a rash decision, we might be rude to someone, we might become defensive, we might cope in a very negative way as opposed to this. So I would definitely recommend anyone who is going through and a hard phase in their life, if you do not have someone whom you can talk to, or someone whom you can talk to but is not like a professional, definitely consider taking therapy, because um, that actually helps you to process your emotions, understand yourself better, and is helpful in making yourself a better human being in general. Because with the mindset that I have, I don't want to process my baggage by dumping that on someone else. That is just not the right way to do it. So I want to process that baggage for myself, with myself alone, and then have a clean slate when I go ahead in my life. So, yep, this has been my journey through my life, having those ups and downs in my mental health journey, the way that I have coped up in the right or the wrong way, what I have done, who I am as a person is what I have shared with everyone right now. So I hoped you like this episode. I hope that I was able to make a difference in probably someone's life who is going through this right now. If not today, someday they might think, oh, maybe I can share my story, or like go out, talk to someone if I'm facing something, go out to a therapist and seek help with someone. Thank you for listening to my podcast. And in the next episode, I am going to bring in a very near and dear friend of mine who has been through one of those thin phases that I have spoken today, and talk about their mental health journey, what they have faced in their life, how they have faced it, the coping mechanisms that they have used to uh, process those emotions, and where they are in their life right now. So, before leaving, I just want to leave you with one thought, which is no problem in your life is as huge or even that huge that you should think of giving up on life or giving up on yourself, because problems are a part of life. You, at the end, things turn out to be good, but you have to be strong enough or empathetic enough to realize that your life is also about the people around you and not just about yourself. There are people who care for you. There would be at least one person who would be impacted by who you are. So definitely no problem in life is big enough for you to give up on your lives. Thank you very much for listening to this first episode, and I will see you in the next one. This is your host, Saurabh Korgaokar, signing off for this episode. Take care and see you soon.